Okay, my name is Bobby Vaught. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you so choose. In addition, I did a 17 lesson series, Everything You Need to Know to Understand Investing. I'll put a link to lesson 1 in the description below, and then each lesson in the description has a lesson to the next one. So lesson 1 has a link to lesson 2, which has a link to lesson 3, and so on and so forth. Make them all really easy to find if you're interested. More coming at some point when I get around to it. And you go through all 17 lessons, you will understand investing better than 99% of the people out there. Okay, today's presentation is not about that, if you're interested. Today's presentation is not about that, however. Two different parts of this channel. There's the investing side, and then I also do a lot of political, social, economics commentary. Today, more about economics. So I came across something on Facebook earlier today. This is about 1:45 in the afternoon, February 6th, Friday, February 6th. Earlier this morning, I came across something on Facebook, and I learned to check everything out. I learned that a long time ago. When you see something on social media, even if it's something that seems to support your views, check it out first before you just blindly post things, okay, or share things. Really important. But in any case, this time, what I saw, I looked into it and was able to verify it. Okay, so it had to do with a post where Bernie Sanders was criticizing Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and this had to do with the Washington Post. Washington Post is not owned by Amazon. Okay, it's not directly affiliated with Amazon. Washington Post is actually owned by an organization called Nash Properties, but in any event. So Bernie Sanders was criticizing Jeff Bezos because Bezos had laid off about a third of the Washington Post staff, and Bernie Sanders' criticism in the meme that I was looking at says, well, he could afford to keep paying them. So anyway, that was the meme. I decided to look it up. Sure enough, it turned out to be accurate in this case. February of 2026, so this had to be within the last couple of days. Senator Bernie Sanders heavily criticized Jeff Bezos for layoffs at the Washington Post, arguing that the billionaire owner could afford to retain staff despite cutting roughly 1/3 of them. Sanders highlighted Bezos' luxury spending. Key criticisms. Sanders argued that the layoffs were unnecessary for a person of Bezos' wealth. Bernie Sanders argued that the layoffs were unnecessary for a person of Bezos' wealth. That has nothing to do with it, Bernie Sanders. It has not a thing to do with it. The layoffs, which affected numerous departments, included the shutdown of the sports and book review sections. Okay, well, let's get back to that. Just a few thoughts here. This is reason number 4,312, demonstrating that the likes of a Bernie Sanders does not understand economics. Good business decisions can't just be exclusively about affordability. They have everything to do with expanding shareholder value, which is the reason that investors invest. Without both labor and capital formation investment, there would be no economic growth. No one ever claimed that every job is set in concrete indefinitely. The makeup of an economic output changes. Example, Blockbuster. Technology changed, and now you don't see Blockbusters anymore. Newspaper sales, Washington Post, have declined due to the shift to a more digital, internet-based news consumption. So the business and moral imperative for business is to make economic decisions with change. And productivity can't just blindly mean producing goods using uneconomic decisions. It can't just be blind production. No, it means producing goods that you actually want, according to what the aggregate market demand actually is. Jeff Bezos, to be sure, he could hire people. He could hire people to make mud pies. Yeah, a little problem, however, he couldn't, I mean, he could certainly afford it. He could afford people to make mud pies, but the problem is that wouldn't be producing anything that you want. So what's the point? So here's, according to Sanders, Bezos shouldn't have laid off 1/3 of the staff at the Washington Post because Bezos can afford to pay it. The basket case. This is Bernie Sanders' life. Okay, I'm going to sum up Bernie Sanders' life in about just his adult career life, at least, in just a few sentences. He graduated in 1964 from the University of Chicago, a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science. At that point, he decided that must mean that he knows better than everybody else, so he got into politics. Eventually wrote 2 books about being in politics. That's it. That's Bernie Sanders' life. Does not understand economics. A simple first grade level. In the 1 in a million chance that Bernie Sanders should see this video, economic growth doesn't take shape by producing mud pies. That would be true even if you could afford to pay people to make them. Business can't just exclusively be about what you can afford to pay people to do. It's about paying people to produce goods that other people actually want. Growth takes shape with the production of goods people actually want in a market economy. It's mind-numbing how a Bernie Sanders can criticize an economic system that he doesn't even understand. Why was 1/3 of the staff at the Washington Post let go? Well, here it is. The layoffs, which affected numerous departments and included the shutdown of the sports and book review sections, prompted the response from Bernie Sanders, with reports indicating nearly 1/3 of staff was affected. Okay, so that's indicating it included the sports and book review sections, but not exclusively. It says which affected numerous departments. I'm just reading this literally, okay, which affected numerous departments and included the shutdown of the sports and book review sections. Okay, so the sports and book review sections. Why? Why was that shut down? Well, it doesn't take an MBA to figure out the answer to that. Bernie Sanders. It was determined that the revenue produced by those sections didn't warrant the continued costs of having them. That's it. The business and moral imperative is for business to make economic decisions, not uneconomic decisions. Economic decisions is how growth takes shape. If we insisted on business making uneconomic decisions, we would all still be living in the Stone Age. We'd all go back to living in the Stone Age. Unbelievable. Just mind-numbing. What did Bernie Sanders say? Bezos shouldn't have laid off 1/3 of the staff at the Washington Post. Bezos can afford to pay it. It can't just be exclusively about affordability, Bernie, for all the reasons that I just explained. Bernie Sanders does not understand economics. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. I'm going to leave it right there. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you so choose. There's also that 17 lesson series that I did, everything you need to know to understand investing. If you're interested, I'll put a link to lesson 1 in the description below. Other than that, until next time, hope life is treating you well. You have a great day.